Instructional design degrees and certificates can cost thousands of dollars and take years to complete. But are they necessary for breaking into the field? Stay tuned to find out. So, there are many reasons why people decide to pursue certificates or master's degrees, and it really ranges from wanting to land that first instructional design job to just wanting to feel more confident in yourself and have people respect your credibility a bit more. So, we'll dive into whether or not a master's degree or certificate is necessary for those things, but I'll kick things off by sharing a bit more about my experience with my master's program. So I did Florida State University's Master's in Instructional Systems and Learning Technologies. So it's a mouthful. I went into that because I was already at Florida State for my undergrad degree, and I basically wanted to get my foot in the door, and I just started the master's program up a week after undergrad. So a ton of thought didn't go into it. I just saw this as a really clear path into the field, and I really wanted to get into the e-learning space. So, one of the big pluses here were the takeaways from some of the classes. Now, some of them, they're like flashbulb memories, like it really helps some instructional design concepts and topics click. And those really came from a couple of really strong professors. One was a practitioner for decades, and the other one was just a really great instructional designer who practiced what he preached. And there were other good classes too. Like they all helped me become a well-rounded instructional designer. So that was helpful. I did build a relationship with what turned out to be a long-term client. It was just someone I was networking with through class assignments, someone who had been a consultant for decades, and they wound up giving me some e-learning development work very early in my degree program. And we worked together for years to come, and we would still work together going forward. Also built some good relationships with my peers. So at the time, I was always getting some feedback on my work, and even now, people that I was friends with during the master's program, they still reached out to me about opportunities. So those connections have been very strong and helpful for my professional development. Some classes not so helpful, right? Some were kind of behind the times, but I think that's just the nature of any degree program. Some classes will be weaker than others. And like mostly with the second half of my master's program, I was just like really over the academic workload, especially when I was starting to see some of the results of my portfolio website and I was doing some real client work. I just wanted to like focus on the practical side of things and put some content out there for other instructional designers, and having to write papers that are like very theoretical. I was over it, to say the least, because I was just kind of done with school and I was ready to start really building my brand and making some real money with clients. So the master's program started to feel a bit more like a distraction down the line, but mileage may vary. And a note about this, like from the beginning, like I had to be very proactive about my success, and I was very proactive about my success. So I didn't really view it as an option to just try to get A's in my classes and then I'll get a good job at the end of things. Like from the research I was doing very early on, it was clear you needed a strong portfolio to land opportunities. It was clear that there were certain tools that were very in demand, particularly the Adobe Suite and e-learning authoring tools. So, and then my peers too, like relationships don't just magically happen. So I was always trying to network. I was always trying to use these modern tech stacks. So if we had a class assignment to do something in PowerPoint, I was saying, oh, can I do this and articulate storyline? If we were supposed to use Canva or some other like easy infographic creator, I was using Adobe Illustrator. So I was really trying to like match the skills I needed for the industry to my classes so I can kind of like kill two birds with one stone, like accomplish both of those things at once. So that was helpful. Just, it's not like you just do a master's program and all of this will just happen for you. If you are motivated, though, you can get a lot out of these programs. But as you'll find out, you can also get a lot out of the free community as a whole. You can learn a lot without paying for a degree program. So let's dive into that. So do you need a master's degree to become an instructional designer or to excel in this space? Well, first let's talk about whether or not it will help you land opportunities. So in the corporate world, Not really. Like it may help you, especially if you like rely on that a lot. You don't have much previous experience. Because again, my master's degree did help me land some early opportunities. Especially because I had like never worked a full-time job. I was coming right out of school and I was landing freelance projects while in my master's program. So like I leaned on that very heavily. But let's just look at some data. So I recently conducted this hiring manager survey. I have a whole video on that if you want to see the data, and the full report is here on my website. So 101 hiring managers responded to this, and we asked, what is the minimum education that an applicant must have to be considered for an instructional design role? So keep in mind, 70% of these respondents were in the corporate space. So this is skewing very corporate heavy, but 67% say the minimum they want someone to have is a bachelor's degree. 18% say a high school diploma, and only 9 people out of 101 said that a master's degree was required. And I would imagine these were the people in the higher ed or even government spaces, which we'll get to in a bit. So then we asked about preferred. So which level of education do you prefer that instructional designers have? Still 42% said that they prefer the applicant has a bachelor's degree. So that was very eye-opening. They're not even preferring a master's degree. And again, this is only 101 hiring managers, but you can kind of see how these numbers stack up and that the master's degree is not leading the pack. It's not a requirement by any means. I think this data should at least show us that much. So, and then a graduate level certificate comes in here at about 18%. So again, check out that full report if you are interested, but that was very eye-opening to me, and it just reiterated this idea that you don't need a master's degree to land a corporate instructional design role. However, it may be necessary in higher education or government. In higher ed specifically, I've heard that your actual master's degree like focus isn't as important as just having a master's degree. Like it's kind of just like a checklist that they may need for some opportunities in the higher ed space. And then government as well. This helped me land some of my early freelance opportunities. I did subcontracting on some government contracts, and the fact that I had a master's degree definitely helped tick some boxes. So those contracts, maybe not the best experience, but if you do see yourself like working in the government space or in the higher ed space, master's degree, probably something you want to put on your radar if you don't have any sort of master's degree already. Okay, so can I help you with networking? Because like I said, I made some great connections here. It really helped me get my business off the ground. One of those connections in particular, because they were able to give us a lot of high value work. So it does put you in touch with other current and aspiring instructional designers because you all are there for the same reason, right? But you can also do this for free online without spending 20 grand on a master's program. Yeah, you need to put in the effort either way. So just going through a degree program and like just showing up for the classes and doing the assignments, that's not going to help you really land these opportunities. Like you do need to be proactive about it unless you're just planning on getting lucky and becoming friends with someone who can really help you. You do need to kind of put yourself out there, meet as many people as you can, get to know people, help them get to know you, and provide value to each other. And especially in 2020 with the pandemic, when so many people are connecting and collaborating online, like that's even more reason to kind of skip a master's degree and network more efficiently and effectively online. There are so many free communities full of instructional designers. My Slack community included. There are, I think, almost 1,700, almost 2,000 people on there now, I think. LinkedIn is such a good community for instructional designers. You know, there are thousands of IDs on there every single week. So if you're looking for other IDs to connect with and learn from and get feedback from, you don't need to join a master. You don't need to enroll in a master's program to get that. So yeah, LinkedIn is a good place to be if you're not there already when it comes to networking. And I have a video on that I could link as well for you. So knowledge, right? Like we want to make sure we're not missing out on the foundational knowledge. We want to know the basics if we're going to be working in this professional industry. So good programs definitely will help you learn the foundations. My program did a really good job at that, and it helps me build this YouTube channel, right? Like some of the takeaways I had, I'm like, how can I recreate that for the YouTube audience or for other instructional designers who didn't spend 20 grand plus on a master's program? So that's really what my YouTube channel is here for, especially with so many of you trying to become instructional designers. That's really like the direction a lot of my content has taken. So I do draw on my master's program for that, and I am grateful for that, because if I was relying on like LinkedIn Learning or articles, it would be a bit more difficult to speak as confidently about some of these things as I do, which I think brings us into the next thing, which is imposter syndrome, right? Like this is very real, right? People who feel, oh, I'm not good enough. I don't know enough to be an instructional designer. My skill set isn't developed enough. That is a very real problem. So if you need some external validation, if you want that like badge of credibility, a master's degree can help with that, right? Like it's just, people can't really say, it's harder to say, oh, what do I know, when you have a master's degree in that field. That's just kind of how our society, that is built, like that credibility. Sorry. But like society does give credibility to you if you have a degree in something, particularly a master's degree. So that is a real thing. It can help you feel more confident. Like I was saying, it makes me feel more confident in my content because I know I have that kind of, formal education to back me up. So, and I think that's what sparks a lot of people reaching out to me when they say, I want to become an instructional designer. Do I need a certificate? What degree programs do you recommend? Like, I think people, they don't really want to spend the money and take 2 years or a year to go through one of these programs, but they want to feel confident enough that they're doing the right thing to get a job. So degree may seem like the easy next step or the natural next step, but it's not exactly necessary. So if you want to get a degree, or if you're considering getting a degree, the best reasons to do so are if you would like a job in higher education or the government, or you just really want to invest the time and the money into that additional credibility. Because obviously it can help you, right? Like having a master's degree isn't going to hurt you. And realistically speaking, in the instructional design space where average salaries are like close to 80 grand, the investment is going to pay for itself relatively quickly. Like I paid off those loans like within a year or so. And even if it takes you several years, like working a full-time job, with a family, paying for rent, like the investment will have a return. The thing is though, is that you don't need, if you want to land an opportunity in the corporate space, you don't need a degree to earn that kind of salary. So it's like, it's a nice to have, not a need to have. As long as you go into it with that in mind, you're in good shape. You've probably heard me say this before, but the best way to land one of those corporate opportunities is to build a really strong portfolio that shows off your skill set with the modern tools and the modern technologies that hiring managers are looking for. So check out the hiring manager survey I referenced if you're not familiar with what they are looking for. And I have a whole YouTube playlist about how to become an instructional designer. So most of you probably aren't new here, so let's just dive back into this. And let's talk about certificate programs. Okay, so degrees, they take a year or two. I think I did mine in 15 months, where my last semester was like just one online class. So you can do it in about a year if you're a full-time student, really committed. But certificate programs are generally around like 3 to 5 classes. So you can do this in like 1 or 2 semesters usually instead of 4 plus. So reasons not to get a certificate: it will not make you certified, right? Right now, there's no such thing as a certified instructional designer. Our field is not very regulated. Anyone who wants can call themselves an instructional designer. Certificate, the word is kind of similar, but it's not giving you any kind of certified designation. That's not a thing. And if you see someone saying that, it's kind of a red flag, and I would look into it further. Either someone's trying to get some credibility that they shouldn't have, or someone's trying to sell you something telling you it's going to make you certified. It will look good on your resume. So maybe it can help, right? If you're showing that you're committed to your professional development, it can never hurt. But there are way better things that you can do on your resume to position your past experience and direct people to a portfolio website that shows off those skills. That's going to do more for you than having a certificate program on your resume, right? Maybe it can help you, right? Couldn't hurt, but there are better ways to invest that time and money, most likely. and thinking that it's necessary to get a job. As we covered, you don't need a certificate to land an instructional design job. A high-end portfolio with that shows off your skills will likely go much further than that piece of paper and that, those classes you completed. Reasons to get a certificate, though. If you need the structure of a formal academic program and you just really want to learn like the basics, like the essentials, the core, instructional design theory, a lot of certificate programs will probably give that to you in a very structured way where you have to complete the assignments or you basically fail. Some people need that, especially if you do have a lot of other commitments and you have a hard time staying committed to something on your own. Having professors who are grading your papers and telling you when things are due, that can really help some people. And maybe that's a reason to do a master's degree too, to really cover that, the core instructional design theories, models, the psychology. That stuff is important, but maybe not so much for landing a job where they just want someone. So many companies right now want someone who can build things and just hit the ground running, use articulate storyline, make things that look nice, and you need the instructional theory part too. Like that's important, but most master's programs and certificates aren't teaching you those tools or preparing you for that very production heavy environment. And another reason to get a certificate is if you eventually want to get a master's degree. So some programs, they let you do a bit of, they let you kind of double dip. They let you do the certificate program and then you can use all of those credits for the master's program. This isn't possible with every certificate program, so I would definitely look into that first. But this may be a good way to just feel it out, get the certificate, get some of those core classes out of the way, and then see how the job market responds, see how you're feeling about your own professional development. And then if you do decide to get a master's degree down the line, it is easier to kind of, that's just that many less classes you have to take to earn the master's degree. Okay. So that is all I have for you. If you are new around here and you do want to become an instructional designer, I do have an interactive Become an ID checklist that kind of links out to all sorts of relevant resources and videos to help you get some of that core theory and learn those core skills to get hireable. Or if you're looking for something a bit more comprehensive, if you want feedback from me and the community and a structured approach to building your portfolio, because you're already kind of far along, you can learn the technology on your own. I do have a portfolio bootcamp that is completely dedicated to building a really strong portfolio. So check that out if you haven't already. I'll drop a link below. And if you have a point of view on this, what maybe you've done a degree program, maybe you are considering one, let us know what you're thinking in the comments. Maybe you have some questions for me or for others. Maybe there are things I missed. Just let us know in the comments and we'll try to help you out how we can, or we'll just appreciate any perspective that you share. So thank you for making it to the end here, and I will see you in the next video.